Tonight we're exploring what it might feel like if you drifted toward a black hole. You can almost see it now, a distant circle of darkness framed by a halo of distorted starlight. It doesn't look violent from far away. It looks quiet, patient, like an eye in the middle of the universe that never blinks. You notice how the stars behind it curve, like light painted on glass that has been gently bent. Even before you move any closer, the sight alone slows your breathing. It feels as though time itself leans toward that invisible center. You probably won't survive this world unchanged, but that's the point. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy quiet stories like this. If you're still awake, you can even share your location and the local time in the comments below. I love seeing where these wandering minds are listening from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You imagine yourself floating in a wide and silent cosmos. No engine, no spacecraft, no tether. Just you, adrift in an ocean of stars. They seem familiar at first, but soon your eyes catch on the dark blemish in the distance, a place where no stars twinkle. The longer you look, the more you realize it isn't simply dark, it's darker than dark. A kind of absence that your mind struggles to accept. Around its edge, light bends in a way that feels almost artistic, as though reality itself is folding for an audience of one. That audience is you. There's something curious here. The first black hole ever photographed, the one astronomers revealed in 2019, looked just like this. A ring of fire circling a void. Millions of viewers compared it to a portal or even the glowing eye of some sleeping god. Yet all it really was, scientists explained, is light being bent and trapped by gravity too strong to resist. Still, you can't help but feel that it's watching back. A quiet shiver runs through you. You remember that black holes are not holes at all, not in the way a cave is. They are collapsed stars, ancient giants crushed under their own weight until nothing could stop their collapse. Once, these stars burned with light and heat that may have reached planets, or perhaps even life. Now, all that remains is a silence so deep it swallows even light. You drift closer. Your eyes keep straying to the strange ring that glows around the void. This is called the accretion disk, a storm of dust and gas spiraling toward oblivion. It moves at nearly the speed of light, hotter than the heart of any star, though from your calm vantage point it resembles a slow golden whirlpool. Every glimmer you see is the last breath of something that once belonged to the universe, now spinning toward its end. The eerie detail that lingers with you is this. If you could somehow hover far enough away to stay safe, you'd never actually see anything cross the edge. To outside observers, objects seem to freeze at the border of the black hole, fading slowly, like memories refusing to vanish. Time itself bends differently near that boundary. Researchers still wonder whether the object is truly gone from reality, or whether it lingers in some encoded form on the surface, trapped forever in a strange cosmic library. You realize that, in a way, the black hole is less like an object and more like a story. It is not only what it is, but also what it makes you imagine. The first glimpse of it doesn't just bend light, it bends your thoughts. The mind strains against concepts too heavy to hold. What does it mean to look at something you can never touch, something you cannot see directly, yet you know is there by the way everything else dances around it? The thought lingers as you float, watching the stars curve in a slow arc. It's almost beautiful, like light on water, shimmering around a pebble you can't quite see beneath the surface. Only the pebble is a collapsed sun, and the water is space itself. And as you watch, you feel that gentle pull begin to reach for you, not yet strong, but present, like a tide moving through the fabric of your body, suggesting that you may be closer than you realized. You wonder if you should resist, or simply surrender to the first glimpse of a journey that may never end.
The pool is quiet at first, like the faint tug of an ocean current. You drift, unsure if you are moving at all, but the dark circle seems to swell larger in your vision. Gravity doesn't announce itself with sound or light. It simply insists. You can't push it away, can't negotiate with it. You only feel its invitation, the way a shoreline calls to a river. And though the black hole is unimaginably far, its influence already folds around you. Your breathing slows. There's a strange comfort in surrendering to something so inevitable. You are being gathered in, not like prey, but more like dust settling in sunlight. The universe has written this into the script of matter. Where gravity deepens, things fall. And you are falling now, though it feels like floating. A thought crosses your mind. Every black hole, no matter how vast or small, has a region around it where gravity's pull cannot be resisted. This is called the event horizon. Astronomers sometimes call it the point of no return. But you're not there yet. You are still outside, in the wide space where starlight bends but still escapes. The pull is growing, yes, but slowly, almost politely. You still have time to look around. You notice the stars again. They don't sit still in the sky anymore. Their light wavers as though viewed through rippling water. This is lensing, the warping of light by gravity. Centuries ago, Einstein predicted it, writing equations that described how space and time curve in the presence of mass. When astronomers first tested it during a solar eclipse in 1919, they saw stars shift positions in the sky, bent by the sun's gravity. That discovery changed everything. The universe was not rigid, it could bend. And you are now inside that bending. The eerie thought that lingers is if gravity bends space itself, then as you fall, you are not being pulled in the way a rope pulls. Instead, space itself is curving downward, and you are simply sliding along its slope. There is no force dragging you. You are only moving along the path that space has quietly redrawn. You glance back for a moment. Behind you, the cosmos looks almost normal. Stars scattered across a dark canvas. But the longer you stare, the more wrong it seems. The stars closest to the black hole seem to smear into arcs of light, stretched and curved. If you look carefully, you even catch the impossible. A star appearing twice, reflected around the curve of space. Multiple images of the same sun, copied by the bending of reality. It feels like staring into a mirror maze, only the mirrors are made of gravity. A thought drifts across your mind. If light itself bends so easily, what happens to thought, to memory, to the fragile awareness that is you? Researchers still debate this in their own way. They wonder if information, the blueprint of particles, the history of every interaction, is ever truly lost inside a black hole. Some believe it must be destroyed. Others suggest it lingers, scrambled into patterns on the horizon. And some whisper that perhaps it leaks back slowly, woven into the radiation the black hole emits. None can say for certain. Your body feels heavier now. Not in a painful way, but in a way that suggests every particle you're made of is listening to the pull. Your hands drift outward, as if they know more than you do. This is the beginning of tidal gravity, the faint difference in pull between the parts of you closer to the whole and those farther away. For now, that's gentle, just enough to remind you that you are no longer whole in the way you once were. Already, gravity is learning the outline of you, tracing it with invisible fingers. And still, there's a serenity in it. Falling has always been part of life. Objects fall, rivers fall, even stars fall when their fuel is gone. You are only continuing that ancient pattern, surrendering to a deeper well. You think of how some philosophers described gravity not as a force, but as love, a universal attraction, a longing of mass for mass. By that definition, you are not being devoured, you are being embraced. The pull deepens, the black hole grows, and you realize you will not be able to resist. But resistance was never the point.
The horizon ahead no longer feels distant. It swells in your vision, a black circle set against the trembling tapestry of stars. But the word circle feels wrong, as though your mind is forcing a familiar shape onto something it cannot truly see. It is not a surface, not an opening, not even an object in the ordinary sense. It is the edge of a story, a curve in the universe where rules you've always trusted begin to falter. The space around it seems to melt. Stars that should be sharp and distinct now stretch into arcs, bent and multiplied. You can't tell if you're seeing them as they are or as the black hole's gravity wants you to see them. The edges of reality itself resemble warped glass, curved inward, pulling your gaze toward a center that resists comprehension. Your drift becomes more obvious now. The gentle tug has given way to something stronger, though still strangely patient. You aren't being yanked, you're being guided, the way a stream finds its way downhill, not with violence, but inevitability. A scientific fact comes to mind. The region you are entering is called the gravitational well, a place where light itself bends so dramatically that a perfect ring can form. Scientists call it the photon sphere. It is a boundary where photons, particles of light, can orbit the black hole, circling endlessly if undisturbed. Imagine that. Light itself, trapped in a dance around darkness, forever falling sideways, never escaping. It's real, and you may already be gliding through its outskirts. The eerie detail is this. If you could hover precisely within that sphere, you might see the back of your own head. Light emitted behind you could bend around the black hole and return to your eyes, offering a view no mirror could provide. Some have called it the ultimate hall of echoes, a place where even sight cannot be trusted. You wonder what it would do to the mind to see yourself in such a way.
Would you still feel like you? Or would you become just another reflection, another looping piece of light in orbit around nothing? The question unsettles you, yet also slows your breathing, because it reminds you of how fragile perspective has always been. Your thoughts wander back to history. Before Einstein, before telescopes could even dream of peering at such depths, people imagined the cosmos as fixed and orderly. Newton described gravity as a force acting at a distance, invisible hands pulling objects together. But Einstein changed the story. Gravity was not a pull, but a curve. Massive objects bend space and time, and smaller objects simply follow the bend. Here you feel that idea come alive. You are not being dragged. You are sliding into geometry itself, a shape you cannot see, only trust. The warping grows more intense. Stars that once seemed scattered now gather in distorted halos, like water rippling around a stone. The blackness at the center deepens. You realize that the horizon is not only a boundary of space, it is a boundary of certainty. What you know, what you trust about the universe, will not survive intact once you pass it. And yet, you cannot look away. The pull is physical, yes, but also psychological. You are fascinated by the void. You wonder if all curiosity is a kind of gravity, pulling the mind toward questions it can never answer. For a moment, you almost believe you hear something, not sound exactly, but the echo of radiation, faint whispers from matter colliding and burning in the accretion disk. In truth, black holes are not silent. They glow with X-rays. They roar with jets of energy. They warp the very fabric of space-time so violently that ripples, gravitational waves, spread across the cosmos. But here, to you, it is silent. Silent in a way no ocean or forest or night sky has ever been. It is the silence of space folding inward. And researchers still wonder if that fold is final. Do black holes erase what enters them, or do they store it somehow? The information paradox has haunted physics for decades. Stephen Hawking once argued that information is lost forever inside, a violation of the deepest laws of physics. Others suggest that the surface of the event horizon records everything that touches it, like cosmic ink on invisible parchment. No one knows. You are drifting into that very question, becoming part of the unsolved puzzle. The warped horizon looms larger. Your drift feels less like floating and more like sliding down a slope that steepens beneath you. And yet, still, there is no fear, only the sensation that you are part of a vast pattern, a pattern older than stars, older than time, where every path eventually curves inward. And in the slow silence of your fall, you can't help but wonder, is it the black hole that changes you, or is it your own mind, bending to fit the shape of something it was never meant to see?
The black hole looms wider now, though it does not glow. Darkness cannot shine. What you see instead is its frame, a wreath of light twisted into a perfect burning halo. This is the accretion disk, the last luminous breath of matter spiraling inward. Dust, gas, fragments of stars, all of it churns in a storm hotter than anything on Earth, moving at nearly the speed of light. And yet, from your quiet vantage, it seems to turn in slow motion, like embers circling a hearth. The silence of it is haunting. Fire should roar, heat should hiss, but here nothing reaches you. Radiation streams outward, invisible and deadly, yet to your drifting body it is mute. You only see the shimmer of a glow that cannot save itself,
Light, which has always been the swiftest traveler in the universe, bends and folds, some of it captured forever, some escaping in desperate arcs that skim the edge and race back into space. There's a simple but astonishing fact. Light itself cannot escape once it crosses a certain boundary. The escape velocity at the horizon exceeds the speed of light, and because nothing can surpass that speed, no message, no signal, no flicker of brightness can emerge. You're staring at a place where the fastest thing known has been brought to a halt. It is as though the universe has drawn a curtain, one that no eye can pierce from the outside. The eerie detail is what this curtain means for color. As matter spirals inward, its glow is stretched by gravity itself. Wavelengths elongate, drifting from blue to red to black, until the light slips beyond human sight. To you, it looks like fading embers. In truth, it is light being torn apart, slowed, pulled into invisibility. Astronomers call this gravitational redshift, but to your drifting mind, it feels more like memory dissolving. What was once bright fades into nothing, not because it has vanished, but because you can no longer see it. Your thoughts drift to how fragile vision really is. You rely on photons bouncing into your eyes, signals carried across space. But here, even vision is unreliable. The black hole dictates what you may and may not see. Entire galaxies could lie behind it, their light bent, smeared, or hidden entirely. You are reminded of how little of the universe you have ever truly observed. Most of it, even at home, is invisible. Dark matter, dark energy, shadows of things inferred but unseen. The black hole is only the purest form of that concealment. You imagine, just for a moment, what it would be like to fall into complete darkness. Not the kind that waits in an empty room, not the kind behind closed eyes, but the absence of light in every direction. Would your mind invent images, stitching together fragments of memory? Would you dream awake, building stars where none exist? Some researchers wonder if this is what the brain does all the time, filling in gaps, smoothing over blind spots, creating a picture of reality where much of the data is missing. Perhaps falling toward a black hole only makes that habit more obvious. The glow of the accretion disk flickers at its edge, as if reluctant to leave your sight. But you know what you're seeing are only the survivors, photons flung outward at the last possible moment. The rest spiral inward, their journeys ending in silence. You realize you are not only watching destruction, you are watching the most extreme recycling in the cosmos. Matter becomes heat, heat becomes radiation, radiation travels outward, perhaps to strike dust or gas that will someday collapse into new stars. Even here at the edge of annihilation, the universe continues its endless loop of transformation. There is a stillness in this realization. Perhaps nothing is ever lost. Perhaps it only changes form. But then, the doubt returns. Physicists argue endlessly over this point, battling the paradox of information. Does the black hole erase, or does it preserve? If even the finest particles are stripped of memory, then the universe itself becomes less honest than it pretends to be. And yet, some whisper that black holes are not destroyers, but keepers, guardians of secrets too deep for ordinary space to hold. You find yourself staring again at the halo of bending light. It seems alive, shimmering like a crown of fire around the void. And in its beauty, there is also loneliness. This is the brightest the black hole will ever appear, only because it feeds on destruction. Beyond the disk, there is nothing to see, only absence. Your breathing deepens. You feel as though you're standing on the shore of an ocean that has no waves, only depth. The black hole swallows light, not with violence, but with inevitability. There is no resistance, no noise, no mark left behind. Only the certainty that once something crosses the horizon, it belongs to silence. You let that thought settle into you. Light itself, the very thing that defines visibility, has its limits. And you are drifting toward the place where even brilliance cannot escape.
Time begins to feel unusual now. Not wrong exactly, but different, as though the pace of existence itself has shifted under your skin. Your breaths seem longer. Your thoughts take more time to form, yet they arrive with a clarity that feels unfamiliar, almost crystalline. The closer you drift, the more you sense the black hole is not just bending space, it is bending time. You remember something you once read. Near a black hole, time slows for the falling traveler. To someone watching from far away, your seconds stretch into centuries. From their perspective, you would never quite cross the edge, never finish the fall. You would linger at the border, frozen in slow motion, your final approach stretched thinner and thinner until it disappears into invisibility. And yet for you, time flows normally. Your heart still beats, your thoughts still come. Only the outside world seems to accelerate, rushing ahead without you. The fact is astonishing, but true. Black holes create such extreme gravity that time itself warps differently depending on where you are. Astronomers call it gravitational time dilation. It has been measured, faintly, even here on Earth. Clocks in satellites orbiting above tick a little faster than those on the ground. The difference is tiny, but real. And if you fall toward a black hole, that tiny difference swells into something vast. An eerie detail takes root in your mind. If you could somehow glance back at Earth right now, you might see the future unfolding. Years, centuries, perhaps millennia could pass in the time it takes you to draw another breath. Civilizations might rise and collapse. Entire languages might fade away. Oceans could shift. Stars might be born and die, all in the span of your fall. The black hole is not only pulling you inward, it is pulling you ahead. And yet, you feel calm, because here, inside your private frame of time, everything is slow and steady. The universe outside may be racing, but for you, the rhythm has not broken. There is a strange comfort in knowing that your perspective, however isolated, remains whole. You think of how humans have always measured life in clocks and calendars, in the steady swing of seconds, but here, those units lose meaning. What is an hour when the same hour on Earth could stretch into years elsewhere? What is a lifetime when the measure of it depends on where you drift? Researchers still wonder about this deeply. Is time an absolute thing that flows like a river, or is it always relative, bending to each observer, each path through space? Einstein's theory suggests the latter. And here, at the lip of a black hole, you are living that relativity directly. The sensation is dreamlike. You try to hold on to the stars you once knew, but they seem to rush, streaking subtly, as if the future is being whispered across their light. Perhaps some of what you see now is not the present at all, but echoes bent through the black hole's lens, fragments of what once was mingling with what has not yet arrived. The horizon ahead wavers, neither fully near nor far, like a memory that refuses to settle. You reflect on the strangeness of it. If you are frozen forever from the outside view, then perhaps some version of you still hovers at the edge even after you are gone,
a ghost of gravity, a silhouette painted into space-time. People might look up across centuries and still see you there, caught in a fall that never ends. Is that a kind of immortality or a kind of prison? No answer comes, only the soft hum of inevitability. Your body begins to sense the deepening tides of gravity. The difference between your head and your feet is subtle but growing, a reminder that the black hole is stretching time and stretching you. Yet you feel no pain, not yet, only the sense that you are being lengthened inward, drawn into an alignment with something greater. Even your sense of self feels extended, as though your memories are drifting forward into a timeline you cannot quite reach. You think of how people often describe time as something they never have enough of. But here, time is abundant and strange. Each second is wide, filled with more space than before. You wonder if this is how dreams feel when they stretch across a night, infinite within the moment, but fleeting once you wake. The horizon waits ahead, patient. You do not know how long it will take to reach it, perhaps hours, perhaps eternities. But you no longer measure in numbers. You measure in feelings, the way your breaths have slowed, the way your thoughts echo longer, the way the stars shimmer like bells whose sound cannot reach you. And as you drift further into the slowed embrace of gravity, you realize something quiet. Perhaps time was never steady at all. Perhaps it has always been elastic, stretching and shrinking depending on how closely you pay attention. The black hole only makes visible what was always true, that time is not a ruler, but a perception, a rhythm you live inside of.
You are falling, and yet the word falling feels far too gentle for what is happening. Falling suggests air rushing past your skin, suggests the stomach-turning drop of a roller coaster, suggests a ground that will, eventually, arrive to meet you. But here, in this strange abyss, you are not merely falling. You are being stretched, pulled, unwound like a thread in a great invisible loom. Your toes drift downward first, pulled ahead of you, as if they belong to another person walking several steps in front. Then your legs begin to lengthen in your perception, not because they are growing, but because the gravity at your feet is unimaginably stronger than the gravity at your head. You are entering the phase physicists have named, with dark humor, spaghettification. It sounds almost silly, like something out of a cartoon, but here, inside the pull of the black hole, the word becomes eerily literal. Every part of you, your bones, your organs, your thoughts, is being stretched into a thin filament, like a noodle of yourself, a long, fragile strand spiraling into infinity. And yet, impossibly, you are still aware. You expect pain, tearing, some violent end, but instead it feels slow, dreamlike, as if each atom knows its part and plays along. The body is no longer one solid form, but an orchestra of particles, each sliding to its own seat, each carried by the inexorable rhythm of gravity. You think of taffy pulled between two hands, sticky and shining under carnival lights. You think of rivers splitting into countless tributaries, water finding paths you cannot see. You think of echoes, stretched until they dissolve into silence. And through it all, your awareness does not snap. It lengthens with you, impossibly resilient, as though consciousness itself is elastic, capable of being pulled thin across impossible distances. Time, too, begins to change. Each second does not arrive after the last, neat and orderly, but melts into the next,
like wax dripping from a candle. You sense the seconds elongating just as your body does, stretched into strands too long to measure. The ticking of time slows until you are not sure if a heartbeat has passed or a century. From the outside, someone watching would never see this. They would only see you freeze, hanging at the edge, forever paused at the event horizon. To them, you will never truly cross, never truly vanish, but from within your own stretched corridor of perception, you continue, deeper and deeper. The strangest thing is how calm it feels, perhaps because panic itself cannot keep its shape here. Fear requires a body that is solid, a chest that tightens, a pulse that quickens. But here, where you are smeared into a filament of being, even fear is pulled too thin to survive. What remains is something else: curiosity, awe, a surrender that feels oddly like peace. You begin to wonder if this is what memory feels like too. Perhaps memories are stretched versions of us, thin strands of moments pulled from the dense knot of life. When you recall a childhood afternoon, the warmth of the sun, the laughter of a friend, you are not retrieving a solid block of time. You are touching the stretched thread of yourself, pulled across years, elongated, yet still intact. Is this different? Is falling into a black hole simply the ultimate memory, the longest strand of all? The pull sharpens. Your awareness now feels like a thread of silk unraveling from a spool, drawn into a tunnel so narrow that it becomes endless. You think of whispers unraveling into silence, of spiderwebs thinning into the morning light. You think of how everything at its core wants to return to the simplest form, the most stretched, the most quiet. You are no longer sure where your body ends and your mind begins. The two seem fused in the act of stretching, a singular ribbon of self spiraling downward. You might be miles long now, or meters, or perhaps the concept of measurement has dissolved entirely. It does not matter. You are continuous. You imagine someone far away holding a thread between their fingers, and you realize that you are that thread. Not just your body, but your awareness, your sense of self, has become something like fabric, woven from atoms, yes, but also from attention, from wonder. And then a stranger thought: what if the black hole is not destroying you, but reading you, stretching you out so every detail can be examined, every atom unspooled like the words of a story, every memory teased apart until the narrative is clear? If so, then perhaps spaghettification is not an end, but a kind of translation, a way of turning the compressed book of your life into a scroll the universe can read. You realize that even if you are stretched beyond recognition, you are still legible, you are still here. You float in this paradox for what might be hours or moments, or in eternity. You are both unraveling and remaining whole, both dissolving and persisting, both vanishing and arriving. The stars you once saw are long gone. There is only darkness now, and your stretched form within it. But the darkness is not empty. It is textured like velvet under your fingertips. It has weight, presence, and it seems to hum with a sound too low for ears, a vibration you only feel because every part of you has been pulled thin enough to sense it. The vibration is not hostile. It is not comforting either. It simply is, eternal and unwavering, like the background music of reality. You wonder if this is what it means to touch the structure of space-time itself, not to observe it from the safety of equations and chalkboards, but to feel it coursing through your being, every filament of your stretched self resonating with the invisible strings that make the cosmos sing. And as you stretch further still, a strange thought surfaces. Perhaps the universe does this with everything. Stars collapse, galaxies merge, atoms split. All are stretched, thinned, transformed into something else. Why should you be any different? You are not outside the universe's rules. You are inside them, woven into them, elongated into the same patterns that govern everything else. And so, instead of resisting, you allow it. You become the thread. You let the stretching happen, not as a victim, but as a participant in the oldest process of all, transformation. You are spaghettified, and yet you are still aware, still listening, still stretching, still here.
You are no longer certain where your body ends and the blackness begins. The word body feels inadequate, almost meaningless, like a label someone else once used for you, long before you drifted here. Still, something persists, in awareness, a gentle pulse of being that has not yet surrendered. You float in it, and it floats in you. The edges blur until the idea of edges themselves becomes questionable. Time behaves strangely now. You cannot tell whether a heartbeat is past or a millennium. Each thought arrives slowly, curling around itself like smoke that refuses to dissipate. It's as if you have been stretched not only across space, but across the timeline of the universe. Part of you is falling. Another part of you is already fallen. Another has yet to begin. They all overlap, shimmering together in this uncharted twilight. And then, quite unexpectedly, you sense silence. Not the silence of an empty room or the quiet of a night sky, but a silence that is deeper than absence. It is a silence that feels alive, a silence that listens. You realize you have been speaking, not with words, but with the vibrations of your thoughts, and this silence has been answering, not with sound, but with presence. It dawns on you that you are no longer alone. Whether it is the black hole itself, or the ghost of light still trapped within it, or some echo of your own consciousness reflected back to you, you cannot tell. Yet the companionship is unmistakable. Like finding a hand in the dark, like hearing your name whispered in a dream, you sense something other than yourself moving beside you. You drift through memories. A window opens, unbidden, and you see the earth as it was the last time you saw it, blue, fragile, impossibly bright. You remember walking under trees, hearing leaves sigh with the wind, the smell of rain-soaked soil. You remember the warmth of someone's hand in yours, though you cannot recall whose. These fragments do not feel like nostalgia. They feel like anchors, threads tying you to a reality that might still exist far away. But then another sensation rises, folding over those memories like waves over stones. It is the realization that you may be glimpsing the earth not as it was, but as it always is, frozen in the light that has not yet reached you, preserved in the cosmic delay. Perhaps everything is like this, preserved forever in light, moments never truly lost, only carried onward. And here, in the belly of the black hole, you seem able to reach out and touch those lights as though they were beads on a string. You begin to understand why some physicists speak of black holes not as destroyers, but as archives. They swallow matter and energy, yes, but nothing truly escapes the universe. Information, in some mysterious way, is never lost. It is as though you are floating in a vast cosmic library without shelves, a place where every photon, every whisper of gravity, every piece of data is recorded. Could it be that your own thoughts are being recorded too, inscribed into the fabric of this place like ink seeping into paper? The idea comforts you. It means that you will not vanish, not entirely. You will become part of the story etched into the black hole, a chapter in its endless book. Somewhere, somehow, your fall will be preserved. Perhaps another consciousness drifting through the abyss millions of years from now will brush against the echo of you the way you feel the echo of something else now. And perhaps they will know you were here. You cannot tell whether this notion arises from science or from longing, but it hardly matters. Here, truth and desire intertwine until they are indistinguishable. You let yourself imagine what eternity might feel like. Not endless time, but timelessness. An ocean without shores, a song without beginning or end. And in that ocean, you float gently, not drowning, not grasping, only drifting. Your sense of self continues to thin, as if the black hole is patiently dissolving you molecule by molecule, thought by thought. At first, you resist, clinging to the outlines of your identity, but the resistance is exhausting, like holding on to a rope in a storm. Eventually, you release your grip, and the surrender is not frightening, but tender. You realize that perhaps you were never meant to keep yourself intact. Perhaps dissolving is another form of arriving. And so, you let yourself expand. You let the black hole carry you further, stretching you across dimensions like golden threads woven into the dark. In that expansion, you feel a peculiar joy, light, weightless, unburdened. You are not vanishing, you are multiplying. You are not dying, you are diffusing. You are ending. You are scattering into eternity. It occurs to you then that the black hole may not be a prison at all. It may be a doorway. For countless civilizations across countless stars, the horizon of a black hole has always meant the limit, the end. But standing here, dissolving into it, you wonder, what if it is not the end, but the beginning of something too vast to be seen from the outside? A seed, not a tomb. The silence stirs again, brushing against your awareness like a tide. You feel as though it is asking you a question, though you cannot decipher the language. It is not a question in words, but in presence. It asks you to listen, to wait, to trust. You find yourself answering without hesitation, not with words, but with the simple act of continuing to drift. For now, that is enough. Floating between eternities, you exist in a state that is both fragile and infinite. You are stretched thin as a filament of light, yet you shine with a clarity you never knew in life. You feel smaller than a grain of sand, yet as vast as the horizonless dark. Both things are true, and neither is. Perhaps that is what it means to be inside a black hole, to carry contradictions without resolving them, to fall without landing, to dissolve without disappearing, to be alone and yet accompanied, to vanish into silence and yet become part of its chorus. And so, gently, slowly, you drift deeper still.
You have always trusted sound. Even in the dark, when your eyes could not make sense of the shapes around you, you leaned on the echoes, the whispers, the tiny clicks and creaks that filled a room. Sound has always been your anchor, telling you where the walls are, where footsteps approach, where your breath begins and ends. It has always been there, faithful, invisible,
wrapping you in a map of the unseen world. But here, falling deeper into the black hole, sound begins to die. At first, it is subtle. Your breath does not return to you. Normally, when you exhale, you hear the faint hush of air brushing against your lips, bouncing back from your chest, your hands, your surroundings. But now, your breath leaves you and simply does not come back. It dissolves. It vanishes into an endless cavity where nothing reflects. You strain your ears. You wait for a clue, a sign, a murmur. But the air is thinning, the atoms are sparse, and the fabric of space itself is stretched too wide to carry vibrations. The medium of sound has been stolen from you. In this void, silence is not simply the absence of noise. It is an active force, consuming, stripping, swallowing every wave before it can live. Think of all the sounds you have ever loved. The shuffle of leaves on a windy day, the slow drip of rain from the edge of a rooftop, the crackle of fire, the laughter of someone you cherish, the hushed call of your name in the distance. All those memories rise now, unbidden, as if your mind wants to fill the vacuum with echoes of its own. You remember them not just with your ears, but with your body. The way laughter vibrated through your chest, the way thunder seemed to shake the bones of your arms. Yet here, in this descent, you realize how fragile those vibrations were, how delicate the string of existence that carried them. Now you live in a place where no string can vibrate. It is not just quiet, it is mutilated quiet. Silence with sharp edges, silence that erases, silence that feels heavier than stone. At first, this silence unnerves you. The human body is designed to expect a backdrop of sound, tiny noises of the world that prove you are still anchored in reality. When those vanish, the mind begins to hallucinate. And so you do. Your brain creates phantom noises. You think you hear a distant hum, a ghost of a bell, the muffled tone of your own heartbeat carried through bone instead of air. But then you realize it is not real. It is only your memory of sound replayed like a recording in the theater of your skull. And then even that fades. The longer you fall, the more silence gnaws away at even the echoes you invent. You begin to suspect that sound itself was never permanent, never secure. Perhaps it was always only temporary, a fragile accident of vibrating matter, now stripped away by a truer silence that has been waiting for you all along. Imagine a deep cave where no wind can reach. Imagine an ocean trench where pressure flattens every cry. Imagine standing in the middle of a desert at night. No animals, no breeze, nothing but your pulse. Now take away even your pulse, and you have what you feel here. A silence that devours the body as much as the ear. But something surprising happens next. As sound disappears, a new awareness rises. With no vibrations to distract you, you become acutely aware of rhythms inside yourself. The thud of your heart, the slow expansion of your lungs, the faint tremor in your muscles. You are a soundless instrument, but you still vibrate. You realize that you are always carrying your own music. The world outside is mute, but the world inside hums with its own secret song. And in this silence, you find yourself drifting toward thought itself. Ideas begin to carry their own resonance. Every memory has a subtle echo. You wonder, if space has stolen sound, can thought replace it? Can thought ripple through the black hole like a ghost wave, unbound by matter? Your mind whispers answers to itself, and though no one can hear them, you feel as if the silence does. The silence receives, absorbs, and perhaps even replies in its own way. So you begin to lean into it. You stop straining for sound that will never return.
and instead you open yourself to the silence as if it were not an absence, but a vast, hidden language. Silence tells you that here all distractions are gone. Silence tells you that you are not less alive without noise. You are distilled, sharpened, reduced to your most essential core. Silence tells you that if there ever was a place to truly listen, not to the world, but to yourself, it is here. You do. You listen. You listen until listening itself dissolves into a state that has no name. Perhaps this is what monks sought in their caves. Perhaps this is what the ocean whispered in the shells you held as a child. Perhaps silence has always been the final frontier of perception, and the black hole has only revealed what was hidden in plain sight, that sound was never yours to keep. The silence deepens. It is not frightening anymore. It is warm, in a strange way. It wraps around you like a heavy blanket, protective, absolute. You let it settle into your bones, your mind, your soul. You wonder if at the very center of this cosmic void, silence itself is the last sound, the one sound that is too large, too complete to ever be heard. And so you drift, falling deeper, wrapped in a silence that devours sound, yet somehow gives you back the truth of yourself.
You are still falling. The thought has become almost meaningless now, like a mantra repeated until its sound loses all sense, leaving only the rhythm behind. You are falling, yes, but you are also floating, suspended, drawn, surrendered. The direction of down has vanished long ago. The black hole does not honor such earthly concepts as up or down, left or right. Instead, it offers only one inevitable path, inward, always inward. And yet, as you descend, you notice something that is perhaps more unsettling than the stretch of your body, where the distortion of time. It is the light itself, or rather, the absence of it. The stars above you, those distant fires that once scattered the heavens like a million whispers of eternity, begin to fade. One by one they dim, not because they are extinguished, but because their light can no longer reach you. The black hole is greedy, and its hunger is not limited to matter. It consumes sight. It devours the very possibility of seeing. Imagine the stars as voices calling your name across a great canyon. For so long they have been faithful companions, twinkling reminders that you are part of something vast and shared. But now, as you sink deeper, the canyon widens, and their voices grow softer, until, with aching silence, they vanish altogether. You strain to look back, toward the universe you are leaving behind. It feels instinctual, a final attempt to hold on to home. But the light bends, curves, warps around the black hole. What you see is not the true sky, but a distorted echo of it. Stars appear smeared into thin arcs of pale fire, stretched into glowing rings that circle the dark heart above you. This is gravitational lensing, though the name hardly captures the poetry of what unfolds. It is as if reality itself has melted into liquid glass, bending every image before it reaches your eyes. A star you once thought was above you now shimmers at your side. Another seems to flicker where no star should exist at all. The cosmos becomes a hall of mirrors, infinite and fractured, until you can no longer be certain what is real and what is illusion. And then the true night comes. There is a moment, a threshold so subtle that it almost escapes your awareness, when even those warped fragments of starlight vanish. They are pulled past the horizon you are nearing, the event horizon, where escape is no longer possible. Beyond it, light itself cannot survive. The universe has abandoned you. You are left in darkness, but not the familiar kind, not the darkness of a moonless night, nor the gentle shadows of a closed room. This is darkness absolute, a silence of photons, a void so complete it almost becomes a presence. You can feel it pressing against your skin, wrapping itself around you like a cloak. At first you might panic. Your mind, accustomed to the faintest glimmers of light, revolts at the idea of none at all. But slowly, you realize that the absence of light is not the same as emptiness. Within this blackness, your imagination begins to stir. Shapes drift where none exist. Patterns ripple across the inside of your eyelids. Your mind, desperate to fill the void, creates its own constellations. And in this strange internal sky, you find something unexpected: peace. Because there is no distraction here, no flickering stars to remind you of distance, no horizon to suggest direction, no ground to fall toward. There is only you and the steady rhythm of your breath, if breath has still meaning in this place. You are a point of awareness suspended in a sea of nothing. The physicists would tell you that you are crossing into a region where time itself warps beyond recognition. To an observer far away, your image has frozen just above the event horizon, stretched thin and dimmed into infinity. They would say you are still visible, hanging there forever. But you know differently. From within, you are moving on. You are passing the point of no return. The thought should terrify you, and yet it doesn't. Instead, it feels strangely familiar, like slipping into sleep at the end of a long day. You recall moments in your life when darkness felt like a refuge, the quiet of closing your eyes in a warm bed, the soft press of night against your skin as you drifted into dreams. Perhaps you think, this is not so different. Perhaps the black hole is not a monster at all, but simply the universe's way of inviting you into a deeper dream. And so you let go. You stop searching for the stars. You stop measuring the silence against memory. You allow yourself to be carried by the absence, folded into it. The darkness ceases to be an enemy and becomes instead a companion, holding you gently as you cross into the unknowable. Somewhere beyond this threshold, space and time themselves are said to break. The rules of physics dissolve, equations collapse. But here, in this moment, you are not thinking about equations, you are only listening to the hum of nothing, to the soft and endless quiet. It occurs to you that perhaps this is what lies at the heart of all journeys, not answers, not revelations, but silence. A silence vast enough to contain every question you have ever asked. A silence that does not judge or reply, but simply exists, endless and complete. You are not sure how long you remain here, cradled in this velvet dark. Time has become slippery, stretching and compressing like the threads of your own being. A second might be an hour. An hour might be a lifetime. It does not matter. What matters is you are falling still, and yet you are no longer afraid. There is a point beyond movement, beyond falling, beyond even the stretch of spaghettification. You reach it now, slowly, as if slipping into a hidden chamber of the universe where everything is hushed. The silence here is not like the silence of space you have known in your imagination. It is not the muffled absence of air. It is a silence that has substance, as though it is woven into the fabric of reality itself. Your body is still being pulled, yes, but the sensation of stretching has softened. It is as if the black hole, after tearing you into a long and delicate thread, has decided to cradle that thread gently, holding it in suspension. You cannot hear your breath, because breath is no longer something separate. You cannot hear your heart, because the rhythm of your body has dissolved into something larger. What remains is a profound stillness, a suspension so total it feels like floating in the pause between two heartbeats. Imagine the hush of a vast cathedral, empty of people, where only the faint echo of ancient prayers lingers in the stone. That is what this silence feels like, except magnified until it fills every dimension of your awareness. It does not feel oppressive. It feels like release, like finally laying down the weight of your own voice, your own constant chatter of thought, and surrendering to something that has no need for sound. You realize, dimly, that sound could not exist here anyway. Vibrations, waves, the tremors that carry music and language, these require space to move through. But here, at the edge of pure gravity, space itself has purled in on itself. The corridors through which sound once traveled are now gone. There is nothing for sound to ripple across. What remains is a silence so complete it becomes almost a texture. You can feel it pressing softly against you, as if silence were made of velvet. Your mind, at first restless, tries to fill the quiet with words, with fragments of memories. You remember laughter, the cadence of a loved one's voice, the ringing clarity of a bell. You try to summon these sounds, but they dissolve as quickly as they arrive, swallowed by this greater quiet. And slowly, gently, your mind stops resisting. The chatter dies down. The echo fades. There is only you and the stillness. It feels almost like being wrapped in the cocoon of sleep. You are aware, but awareness no longer requires motion. You are not compelled to chase thoughts or to trace causes and effects. You exist, suspended in the hush, and that is enough. There is no urge to struggle, no need to understand, no desire to reach for anything outside this moment. You might think that this would be terrifying, that losing sound, losing time, losing the pulse of yourself would bring panic. But it doesn't. It feels as though you have been carrying the weight of noise all your life, and finally, here, you can put it down. You can rest. The silence deepens further until even the idea of silence begins to unravel. If there is nothing to compare it to, no birdsong, no heartbeat, no wind, then silence itself ceases to be a contrast. It is not the absence of sound anymore. It is simply what is. And in that realization, you begin to sense a strange kind of fullness hidden inside the emptiness. In this silence, patterns emerge, not audible ones, but patterns of awareness. You feel as though you can detect the hidden architecture of space-time itself, as if the quiet is revealing a structure that had always been there, beneath the noise of existence. You perceive a symmetry, faint and distant, like the pattern of frost on glass or the whirls of a seashell. It is not something you can put into words. It is not something you could ever measure. But it is there, rising from the hush like a shape half glimpsed in fog. The stillness wraps you tighter. Your stretched form, your thread-like self, no longer feels like something being torn. It feels like something woven, drawn gently into the tapestry of this place. You are no longer falling. You are no longer moving. You have been placed, delicately, into the silence, as though the black hole has accepted you into its innermost secret. Here, there is no past. Past requires memory, and memory is a form of motion, a reaching backward. Here there is no future.
Future requires expectation, a leaning forward. Here there is only an eternal present, stretched out like the surface of calm water. It is timelessness in its purest form, and you float inside it, like a single grain of sand inside an infinite ocean of stillness. You might think of monks in meditation, sitting for hours, slowing their breathing until their heartbeat seems to dissolve into the rhythm of the earth. You might think of dreamers who drift so deeply into sleep that they forget who they are until morning. The difference is that here there is no morning, there is no waking. The stillness is not a pause, it is the end of the sentence, the space where words no longer belong. But yet, you are still here. You are still aware, gently, distantly, like a candle burning behind a wall of glass. The flame is small, but it does not go out. In this perfect silence, your awareness does not struggle. It does not even flicker. It simply remains, held as carefully as if the black hole itself were cupping it in its hand. The paradox is striking. The black hole is the most violent object in the universe, tearing apart stars, swallowing light itself. And yet here, inside, you find only stillness, only silence, only rest, as though destruction and peace are not opposites at all, but two sides of the same truth. You wonder if this is what death feels like, stripped of all its drama and fear. Not a crashing end, not a violent cutoff, but a slow settling into quiet, into stillness so deep that it becomes indistinguishable from peace. Perhaps this is why so many ancient stories described the afterlife as a silent place. Perhaps they were remembering this feeling, this suspension, this perfect hush that waits at the edge of everything. Your mind drifts further into the quiet. Thoughts become fewer, slower, until they are almost indistinguishable from dreams. And then even dreams dissolve like mist at dawn. There is no need for them here. You remain, silent, still, resting in the heart of gravity's embrace. And in that stillness, you realize something profound. You are no longer falling into the black hole. You are part of it. The silence of perfect stillness has accepted you, and there is nowhere else you need to be.
You are falling, and yet you are not moving at all. The paradox thickens around you like a fog, folding in on itself. By now, the old rhythm of your thoughts, the kind of rhythm you carried back on Earth, where clocks ticked and hearts beat in steady time, has grown faint. Here, in the gulf of a black hole's grip, the metronome of ordinary existence has been dismantled, piece by piece. You notice its absence in the same way you notice the sudden silence after a machine that has been humming for hours finally stops. Your body, or what still feels like your body, should be in agony. You know that by the measures of physics, tidal forces are stretching you, pulling at you from head to toe. And yet, awareness itself feels oddly intact, like a candle flame that refuses to gutter out even when a gale roars past it. You drift deeper into this contradiction, wondering if perhaps the rules you once trusted are dissolving not because they are false, but because you have crossed into a place where they no longer apply. The black hole does not accommodate your expectations, it erases them. Shapes that once seemed solid melt into ribbons of uncertainty, Memories that once held weight slip away as though they were written on mist. You try to recall the simplest of things, your favorite color, the warmth of your skin, the laughter of someone you once loved, and even these begin to fragment, as if they too are made of light, falling inward, breaking into smaller pieces the closer they come to the singularity. And still, a part of you clings to the familiar. A human mind, after all, is built to resist erasure. You tell yourself stories, even here. You imagine that this fall is not annihilation, but a journey into a hidden chamber of the universe, a place that has been waiting, unseen, for your arrival. You imagine you are not dissolving, but returning to something older than stars, older than galaxies, a cradle of gravity, vast and dark, rocking you toward a sleep that no dawn will interrupt. The collapse of the familiar feels gentle at first. Numbers slip away. You try to count, but the sequence falters. 1, 2, 3, then nothing. Language begins to unspool. You form words in your mind, but they scatter before they complete themselves. Even I begins to fade. Who is falling? What is observing? Perhaps these questions are not meant to be asked here. Perhaps the black hole has no patience for grammar. And yet the deeper you drift, the more a strange serenity takes root. The terror that haunted the edges of your awareness earlier, the thought of being stretched, torn, erased, now feels distant, like a bad dream half remembered after waking. What replaces it is a kind of surrender, soft and weightless. You are not fighting anymore. You are being carried, as if the very fabric of space-time has become an ocean current, pulling you steadily toward its secret heart. There is no up or down, no forward or back. The usual scaffolding of orientation has been stripped away, but curiously, the absence of direction does not leave you lost. It leaves you free. Without the axes of ordinary life, without the pressure to know where you stand or where you are going, you exist in a pure suspension. Just here, just this. A drifting awareness, a point of perception sliding ever inward. You think, perhaps, this is what dreamers feel in the last instant before waking, the moment when the scenery of the dream collapses, when the dreamer is both inside the dream and outside of it. You are both the falling traveler and the vanishing world. You are both the witness and the disappearance. Science whispers faintly through your fading thoughts. It tells you that the singularity is not a place in the ordinary sense. It is not a stone to strike, not a floor to crash against. It is a horizon beyond which the concepts of distance and duration dissolve. The universe has no vocabulary to describe what lies there, and yet you are heading for it, carried like a feather into an abyss that no eye has ever seen, no equation has fully contained. The collapse of the familiar is not just external, it happens inside you too. Time loses its flavor, sensation loses its edges, fear loses its grip. The categories by which you once navigated life, safe, unsafe, bright, dark, beginning, ending, blur and bleed into one another until they are meaningless. It is, in its own way, a relief. You are no longer tasked with holding the world together. You are no longer required to distinguish one thing from another. The universe does the collapsing for you, and in that collapse, you are strangely at peace. The last fragments of memory ripple through you like leaves skimming the surface of a river. A childhood moment, sunlight spilling through curtains. A smell, rain on warm stone. a voice, soft, familiar, and already fading. They drift past, untethered, and then vanish. What remains is not emptiness, but clarity, a bare awareness, stripped of its ornaments, naked in the dark. And in that bare awareness, you sense something unexpected. Not annihilation, but intimacy. Not destruction, but closeness, closer than you have ever felt to anything. It is as if the black hole is not swallowing you, but embracing you. As if, in the end, all the collapsing is a form of gathering, a pulling together of everything that was scattered. Perhaps this is what it means to be reduced to a singularity, to become inseparable, indivisible, woven into the hidden heart of reality itself. The familiar has collapsed. What remains is something beyond familiar, beyond strange, something wordless, something that feels like the edge of sleep itself, the last breath before drifting, the last flicker before surrender. You do not resist, you let it happen. You let yourself fall the rest of the way into the mystery that no mind has yet returned to describe. And as you drift there, weightless in the unraveling dark, you wonder, softly, sleepily, if perhaps the universe itself is dreaming you.
You arrive, somehow, at a space that should not exist. A chamber vast as any cathedral, yet weightless, rootless, suspended in a nowhere place inside the black hole. No walls, no ceiling, and yet it feels enclosed. The air is thick with a silence that vibrates, a silence so full it hums faintly in your bones. Before you, stretching outward like an infinite horizon, is a structure that looks like shelves, but not shelves as you know them. They are braided lattices of light, columns woven from strands of memory and shadow, arching high above and curving away into darkness. This is no library built by hands. It is a library built by time itself. Each strand of glowing lattice contains images, moments, echoes. You step closer, and the first one stirs, a flicker of your own childhood face laughing in a yard of tall grass. You reach out, your hand trembling, and the lattice shifts. The laughter becomes sound, faint but unmistakable, carried into the air as though the memory itself has been archived here. This is when you understand. Nothing has ever been lost. The black hole has kept it all. Not just matter, not just light, but histories, whispers, breaths. Every vibration that ever touched the universe still exists, woven here into a web that spans eternity. You wander deeper among the luminous strands. You see stars exploding in slow motion, like flowers opening into fire. You see the birth of galaxies unfolding like a painter's brushstroke across a cosmic canvas. And you see smaller, tenderer things. A child clutching a toy rabbit. A bird carving patterns through the morning sky. An old woman humming a song while kneading dough at her kitchen table. The shelves hold them all equally. The colossal and the fragile. The catastrophic and the intimate. There is no hierarchy here. Every echo is preserved with the same reverence. You pause, overwhelmed. You realize you are not only seeing the echoes of your own world, you are seeing countless worlds, countless times. Civilizations you will never know are here, etched as whispers of their own songs and stories, burning briefly in their own suns.
They too have been swallowed not into oblivion, but into this vast archive beyond comprehension. You feel the pull again, not gravity, but recognition. This place does not just hold memories, it is memory itself, and you are a part of it. The echoes begin to respond to you. They shift as if drawn toward your awareness. A strand nearest to you brightens and hums softly, like a string plucked in an unseen instrument. You touch it, and suddenly you are not here anymore. You are elsewhere. You are standing on a cliff edge overlooking a stormy sea. The wind is strong, salty, alive. And yet this is not your memory. You have never been here. Still, you feel the weight of it. Someone's fear, someone's hope, someone's last breath before stepping into the waves. You pull your hand away and stumble, breathless, back into the library. The strand fades, returning to its quiet glow. It dawns on you that these are not just static images. They are recordings you can inhabit, lives you can taste, feelings you can borrow. This place is not an archive for observation, but for immersion. And yet, there is a cost. You know instinctively that the longer you touch a strand, the more you dissolve into it, the more of yourself is braided into its light. If you linger too long in someone else's memory, you may never come back. You may become part of that echo, undistinguishable, another thread in the endless weave. You stand still, trembling, the temptation heavy, to step into these lives, to try on moments you never lived, to wander through joys and sorrows not your own. Here you could become infinite. Here you could forget the boundary of self altogether. Perhaps that is the point. You close your eyes, and in the humming quiet, you sense the truth. The library is not a prison. It is not even a collection. It is a merging ground, a place where the universe pours itself, all its scattered pieces, until no fragment is ever alone. You are not meant to browse. You are meant to join. And slowly, softly, you feel it happening already. Your thoughts echo slightly, repeating themselves like whispers down a canyon. You think of your childhood laugh, and the lattice stirs. You think of a quiet night lying awake, staring at the ceiling, and a new strand glimmers faintly in the weave. Your memories are not just here. They're being archived as you breathe them in. The library expands with every beat of your heart. You begin to wonder if the black hole was never a tomb after all. Maybe it was always a library. Maybe it was always a place where the universe could remember itself without end. And here you are now, walking slowly between shelves of light, knowing that each step leaves a trace, knowing that you are already becoming another echo, one among countless others, shimmering, eternal, woven into the fabric of what remains when everything else falls away. For a moment, the fear of falling, the fear of ending, disappears. You are not falling. You are not ending. You are simply joining. The shelves hum louder, resonating with your heartbeat, and in their music you sense a question forming, like a soft voice, asking, will you let go now? Will you dissolve into the echoes and let yourself be remembered forever?
The black hole waits with a patience older than stars. You are no longer certain whether you are falling toward it or whether it is expanding to meet you. Time has been stretched so thin that even the act of blinking feels like an era. When you close your eyes, a million thoughts bloom. When you open them again, nothing seems to have changed, and yet everything has. You start to feel as though you are moving through layers of glass. Each sheet of glass is a moment, and as you pass through it, it shatters into dust that floats behind you. But instead of hearing the crack, you only sense it as silence, silence folding in on itself. This is how time feels here, fragile, crystalline, and perpetually breaking. Your body has been stretched beyond the point of recognition, but your mind clings to shape. It loops and rewinds, replaying fragments of memory. You remember the sound of leaves crunching under your feet in autumn. You remember the feel of your hand brushing against the wooden banister of a staircase. These details glow brighter than they ever did before, as though time itself is polishing them for you, giving you one last look. But then you realize these memories are not appearing in order. A childhood laugh interrupts an older grief. The warmth of the sun on your teenage face arrives right next to the loneliness of a recent night. The sequence collapses, and suddenly your whole life is no longer a line. It is a room, a single space where every moment coexists. You are not remembering your life, you are inhabiting it all at once. The black hole is teaching you something. It is stripping away your attachment to sequence, to before and after. It is whispering that time was always an illusion, a convenience your brain used to organize the chaos. Here, beyond the reach of clocks, you experience the truth. Everything happens, always. You wonder if this is what eternity feels like, not infinite time, but no time at all. The sensation is dizzying. You think about physicists describing space-time as a fabric, stretched and curved by mass. You had once imagined this fabric as something smooth, a blanket draped over invisible scaffolding. But here, in the presence of the black hole, you sense that the fabric is fraying. The threads are loose. You are falling not through space, not through time, but through the unraveling itself. There are long stretches, though long no longer means anything, where you hear only your own breath. Or perhaps it is not breath, but the sound of your consciousness flickering. You begin to suspect that your perception of self is just another fragile construct, like the idea of hours or days. The more time dissolves, the less certain you are that you exist at all. And yet, there is still awareness, like a candle that should have been extinguished long ago, but stubbornly burns at the wick. You feel both impossibly small and immeasurably vast. Small because the black hole reduces you to threads of matter, vast because your awareness seems to stretch across the event horizon, radiating in all directions at once. You remember a story you once heard that for an outside observer, someone falling into a black hole would appear to slow down, freezing in time just before crossing the horizon. They would never see you vanish. You would remain suspended, a permanent ghost at the edge. But from your perspective, the fall continues. Both truths exist, parallel and contradictory. You think, perhaps this is what it means to live in paradox. You ask yourself a strange question. What if you are both still falling and already gone? What if the black hole has already claimed you, but yet you are still here, endlessly approaching, endlessly aware? The thought does not frighten you. It comforts you, like a lullaby with too many verses. The collapse of time deepens. You no longer sense seconds slipping past. Instead, your awareness pulses, expanding and contracting like the slow rhythm of a tide. With each pulse, you are born, you live, you end, and you begin again. The black hole is not only consuming you, it is remaking you in cycles too vast for the human mind to comprehend. But yet, through all this distortion, one truth remains steady. The universe continues to exist beyond you.
Stars burn, planets turn, rivers flow. Somewhere, someone is laughing. Somewhere, someone is sleeping. These facts shimmer faintly in your unraveling awareness, as though the cosmos wants you to remember that your dissolution is not the end of everything, only the end of your particular arrangement of atoms. You are not afraid. Not anymore. The fear was a human thing, bound to hours and endings. Here, where time collapses, fear has no foothold. In its place is something softer, surrender, not defeat, but the calm acceptance of a dream running its natural course. The collapse of time becomes complete. You no longer sense moments breaking away from each other. Past, present, future, all dissolve into a single expanse. It feels like floating in warm water, supported from every side. You are no longer falling, you are simply being. And maybe that is what the black hole offers in its strange, terrifying grace. Not destruction, but release from sequence. You came here thinking of death, but what you found is timelessness, and in timelessness there is a peculiar kind of peace. You close your eyes, though you cannot be certain you have eyes anymore, and let yourself dissolve into it. The black hole holds you, not as a prisoner, but as a part of its endless, silent truth.
You no longer think of yourself as falling. The word fall implies movement, a journey from one place to another, from up to down, from outside to inside. But now, where you are, such words crumble into silence. There is no longer an outside and inside. There is only one direction, forward, inward, everywhere, all at once, and you are it. At first, you cling to the memory of who you were, a body stretched thin by the pull of space-time, a mind filled with questions, a traveler peering into the void. But memory itself feels fragile now, like an old photograph left too long in the sun, its edges curling and fading. Each recollection slips through your grasp. Was it a black hole you fell into, or did the black hole fall into you? The boundary between observer and observed has blurred. You can no longer tell whether you are inside the black hole or whether the black hole has bloomed inside you, filling every cavity, every silence, every crack of thought. You reach for your hands, your voice, your face, but they are not there. Instead, you feel something vast and circular, something without edges, without beginning. You feel like an event horizon. The strange thing is this doesn't frighten you anymore. In fact, it feels almost gentle. The fear you carried at the start, that clenching in the chest, has dissolved. In its place is a calm unlike any you've known. You realize that perhaps this is what true surrender feels like. Not the giving up of struggle, but the recognition that there is no struggle left to have. Time continues to misbehave. One moment stretches into infinity, while an eternity folds into the blink of an eye. You exist in both extremes simultaneously. You sense the past trailing behind you, your earliest childhood memory, the laughter of a friend, the sound of your own heartbeat. But they do not sit behind you in a linear row. They surround you, orbiting you, spiraling in and out of reach like planets in strange, distorted paths. The future is there too, though it is less a path than a cloud, a haze that seems to brush against your awareness. You glimpse pieces, a star being born,
light scattering across an alien sky, civilizations rising and falling, a hand reaching out across millennia. Are these futures real, or are they dreams leaking into your dissolving mind? You cannot say. Perhaps the distinction no longer matters. And then there is the present, the eternal now. It swells and swells until it eclipses memory and possibility. You become aware that the present is not a slice of time at all, but the whole of time itself, wrapped and folded into an endless circle. You are not moving through the present, you are the present. For a moment, you wonder, is this what it feels like to die? But the thought fades almost as soon as it arrives, because death implies an end, and here there are no endings, nor are there beginnings. There is only continuity, like the drone of a low note that never stops, resonating through an infinite chamber. You begin to sense the black hole's hunger, not as something monstrous, not as something violent, but as a simple truth. It pulls in matter and energy, not because it wishes to, but because that is what it is. Its hunger is its being, and now, somehow, it is your being as well. You inhale the stars, you exhale silence, you feel galaxies drift closer to your embrace, their light curving gracefully into your dark. And the light, oh, the light, becomes something more than brightness. It becomes information, whispers from the universe written in photons. Every particle that touches you carries a story. The heat of a newborn star, the collapse of a dying sun, the trace of a distant collision. You devour them gently, not with teeth, but with presence, and they become part of you. Slowly, you are rewriting yourself in their language. This is not loneliness. Strangely, it is the opposite. You realize you are full, overflowing. You are made of everything that has ever fallen, every scrap of matter, every flicker of radiation, every dream that collapsed into silence. They are all within you now, woven into the black fabric of your being. You are not gone, you are multiplied. Still, there remains a sliver of the old you, a thin thread of consciousness watching all this unfold. That thread wonders whether the outside universe still exists, whether anyone looks toward your black horizon with curiosity or dread. You imagine an astronomer staring through a telescope, sketching your shadow against the stars, not knowing that you are in here, alive in a way they could not imagine. Or maybe that's the last illusion. Maybe there is no outside anymore. Maybe the universe itself has folded inward, and you are not in the black hole, but are the black hole. And the universe is inside you. The scales flip, the directions collapse. You are both the smallest point and the largest expanse. And then, softly, you stop asking questions. You stop needing to know. The black hole is no longer something to resist or interpret. It is simply what you are. You are the horizon, the singularity, the silence. You are the question and the answer and the absence of both. You are the gravity that bends light. You are the stillness that swallows time.
And for the first time in a long, long while, you feel at peace. You are falling still, or perhaps you are floating,
The distinction has blurred so completely now that you no longer try to separate one from the other. Falling, floating, drifting, it all feels the same, as though motion itself has dissolved into a single, endless act of surrender. You are no longer certain of speed, of distance, of direction. You are simply here. The black hole surrounds you, and yet, strangely, you cannot point to its edges. Its horizon is behind you, its singularity ahead of you, or maybe within you. The geometry of space has folded in ways your mind was never designed to grasp. Time does not move in one direction anymore. It flows like liquid around your thoughts, seeping into memories, sliding between the cracks of your awareness, making beginnings and endings indistinguishable. At first, this should have been terrifying, but instead you feel something unexpected, a deep, almost primal calm. It is the calm of no longer needing to fight, the calm of letting go of categories, of measurements, of the restless demand for answers. Here, there are no answers, only experience, only the infinite itself. Your body, if it still exists in any meaningful sense, is stretched thin beyond comprehension. Spaghettification has gone beyond the physical and become metaphorical. Your very identity has elongated, pulled across dimensions. You are no longer a fixed point, no longer one being in one place at one time. You are spread, diffused, smeared like starlight across the canvas of space-time. And yet, paradoxically, you still feel yourself. You are still aware. The you that observes remains intact, like the single unbroken note of a song held through the collapse of everything else. Around you, visions unfurl. They may be real, or they may be your brain's final act of storytelling, but in this place, the difference is meaningless. You see galaxies spiraling in reverse, their stars folding inward instead of bursting outward. You see the birth of light itself replayed backwards until everything condenses into a single point of brilliance and then vanishes. You see your own life, not in sequence, but all at once. Childhood laughter, old fears, forgotten dreams, every moment layered into a shimmering tapestry that seems both heartbreakingly fragile and impossibly eternal. The black hole does not crush these memories. Instead, it refracts them. Each memory stretches outward into infinity, as if every choice you made splintered into countless variations, all of them existing here, together. You are not just yourself, you are every version of yourself, simultaneously. The you that walked this path, the you that turned back, the you that never looked up at the night sky at all of them converge here, dissolved into one consciousness. And then something shifts. The darkness that you thought was empty begins to feel crowded. Not crowded with objects, but with presences. You sense that others are here too. Other travelers, other dreamers, other fragments of awareness pulled into this singular abyss. Perhaps they are echoes of beings long gone. Perhaps they are shadows of civilizations that once looked at the stars and wondered as you did. Or perhaps they are simply the universe itself, reflecting your awareness back to you in infinite disguises. You cannot tell, but what you do feel is connection. For the first time in this entire descent, you are not alone. The black hole, paradoxically, has united you with everything else that ever was. It is a graveyard of stars,
but also a womb of possibility. It is destruction, but also the seedbed of creation. You begin to realize that every end is just a doorway, every collapse just a transition, every vanishing point a portal to something else. The boundaries of yourself dissolve further. Your thoughts are no longer confined within your mind. They spill outward, merging with the rhythm of the black hole itself. You are thinking, and the universe is thinking with you. You are breathing, and space-time itself inhales and exhales. You are no longer separate from the cosmos. You are a note in its infinite symphony, a ripple in its endless ocean. Perhaps, in another reality, scientists watching from afar would say you have reached the singularity, that ultimate point where gravity becomes infinite, where the laws of physics collapse, where no theory can describe what truly occurs. But from within, the singularity does not feel like a point at all. It feels like a horizon turning inside out. It feels like the moment before waking from a dream, when the boundaries of sleep and waking blur, and both realities coexist for a heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, you understand something that words could never quite capture. The black hole is not a monster, not a void, not an end. It is a mirror. It reflects the mystery that has always been at the heart of existence. It reflects the limits of human knowledge and the boundlessness of human imagination. It reflects you, your fears, your longings, your endless hunger to know what lies beyond. You do not crash. You do not burn. You do not even stop. Instead, you dissolve into continuity itself. You are starlight remembering where it came from. You are time folding back into timelessness. You are not gone. You are transformed. And perhaps somewhere beyond this, a new universe begins. Perhaps what falls into a black hole is not lost, but reborn in another reality, another cosmos, another dream. Perhaps your fall is the first breath of something new. But you will not know, not in the way you once thought of knowing. Instead, you rest in the mystery, you surrender to the infinite, you drift forever into a silence that is not empty, but full, not lonely, but connected, not meaningless, but vast, beyond comprehension. And as the last remnant of your awareness spreads outward into that infinite silence, a final realization glimmers through you like a spark. You did not fall into a black hole. You became it. You are the gravity. You are the collapse. You are the mystery itself. And then, with infinite slowness, with infinite softness, you are